My friends, I want to begin with a truth that may pierce your heart, but will also heal it. Life will not always ask our permission before it changes. Sometimes the job ends, the relationship crumbles, the diagnosis arrives, or the storm comes uninvited. And in those moments, we feel small, we feel unseen. We wonder if we still matter in a world that seems to be moving faster than our hearts can keep up. This truth can be difficult to embrace when life feels heavy, when disappointments pile up like uninvited guests at your door, when the losses seem more real than the promises. Our natural instinct is to see pain as a sign that we have done something wrong, that perhaps God has turned his face away, that life is against us. But the longer we walk through valleys, the more we begin to notice something sacred hidden in them. Pain is rarely the end. More often, it is the beginning of something yet unseen. Think of a seed planted in the soil. To the untrained eye, it looks as though the seed has been buried, lost, forgotten under the weight of the earth. Yet within that darkness, a quiet miracle is taking place. The breaking, the pressing, the stretching, all of it is necessary for the seed to become what it was destined to be. Without the burial, there is no blossoming. Without the breaking, there is no becoming. Scripture whispers this same truth. In the letter to the Romans, it is written that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. Notice the progression. Suffering is not the dead end, but the doorway. What feels like punishment is actually preparation. What feels like a burial is, in reality, a planting. I think of the times in my own life when pain pressed me so hard, I thought I would not survive it. The nights when prayers felt like they dissolved before reaching heaven. The mornings when courage felt like a foreign language I could not speak. And yet, looking back now, I see that those seasons of ache were also seasons of awakening. They stripped away illusions I had clung to. They softened the hard soil of my heart. They created space where new wisdom could take root. Pain has a way of humbling us, reminding us that we are not in control, and in that humility, we discover grace. It loosens our grip on the things that were never meant to define us. It draws us into deeper dependence on the one who holds all things together, even when our own world feels like it is falling apart. And yet, I know this is not easy to hear when the wound is still fresh. If you are in that place now, confused, hurting, weary, I want you to know it is not a sign of your failure. It is not God's rejection. It is not proof that you are unworthy. You are not being punished. You are being prepared for deeper strength, for gentler wisdom, for a fuller capacity to love, to serve, to endure. Imagine a craftsman shaping a piece of stone. To the stone, every strike of the chisel must feel harsh, unnecessary, cruel. But the craftsman sees what the stone cannot yet see, the beauty hidden within, the form waiting to be revealed. In the same way, the blows of life may sting, but they are carving away what does not belong. preparing you for a shape more radiant than before. If you can sit with your pain, even for a moment, without running from it, you may begin to hear its quieter voice. Pain speaks, not only of loss, but of possibility. Not only of endings, but of beginnings. It reminds us that we are still alive, still capable of growth, still in the hands of a God who makes all things new. So do not despise your pain. Hold it gently as you would hold a fragile child, knowing it is part of your becoming. You do not need to rush through it. You do not need to pretend it does not hurt. Simply trust that even here, even now, something sacred is being formed within you. Faith is the anchor in seasons of change. Change has a way of unsettling us. It does not knock politely before entering our lives. It simply arrives, often uninvited, and rearranges the furniture of our existence. The career path we thought was certain suddenly shifts. The relationships we counted on are altered. The plans we wrote in ink are smudged and rewritten by hands not our own. In those moments, it feels as though the ground beneath us is moving, like a ship caught in restless waters. What do we hold on when everything familiar is slipping away? What keeps us steady when we cannot see the shoreline? That is where faith steps in, not as a lofty idea or a pious word, but as an anchor for the soul. Picture a ship tossed about by waves. The winds howl, the skies darken, and yet, when the anchor is dropped deep into the unseen bed of the sea, the vessel holds its ground. The storm may rage, but the ship is not lost. Faith works in the same way. It roots us into something deeper than our circumstances, deeper than our fears, deeper than the noise of change. Scripture tells us that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. That is not an easy assurance to live by. It is one thing to speak of faith when the sun is shining and the path is clear, but quite another when we are walking through shadows. Yet it is precisely in those shadowed seasons that faith proves its strength. There have been moments in my own journey where change arrived like an earthquake, shaking the walls of the life I had carefully built. At first, all I could feel was fear. The questions came in waves. What now? How will I endure this? Am I strong enough? And I was not, at least not in my own strength. But when I chose, sometimes trembling, sometimes with tears in my eyes, to trust that there was still a purpose unfolding, that I was not abandoned, I found that I did not collapse under the weight of change. Something larger was holding me. Faith does not erase the storm, it steadies us within it. It whispers that even when you cannot see the outcome, you are seen. Even when the map disappears, there is still a guide. Even when what you built falls apart, you are being led towards something new. Faith is not naive optimism. It does not deny the pain of change. Rather, it dares to believe that change, however unwelcome, may carry within it the seeds of a greater good. To the one listening, who feels like everything is shifting beneath your feet, let me say this: you do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to predict the future or control what is uncontrollable. Your work is simpler, though not always easy. Anchor yourself in trust. Anchor yourself in the belief that your life is not random, that your story is not forgotten, that the one who began a good work in you has not abandoned it midway. Like a child learning to walk, you may stumble, you may feel unsteady, but the hand of grace is steadying you. The hand of faith is guiding you. And as you take one step and then another, you will discover that what once felt like the end of your story is only a new chapter beginning. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the quiet courage to move forward in spite of it. It is the anchor that keeps you from drifting too far, even when the waves are high. And in time, as the storm calms and the waters clear, you will look back and see that faith carried you through what you thought you could not survive. Growth begins the moment we stop running from discomfort. It is human to avoid what hurts. When life becomes uncomfortable, our instinct is to pull away, to shield ourselves, to reach for distractions that numb the ache. Discomfort feels like an enemy, an intrusion, a signal that something has gone terribly wrong. Yet if we look closely, if we listen with the ears of the soul, discomfort is not a curse. It is a teacher. Think of a child learning to walk. The wobbling steps, the falls, the tears, the frustration, all of it is uncomfortable. And yet, without it, the child would never discover the joy of running freely in the fields. The discomfort of those early stumbles is not punishment. It is the sacred process of growth. In Scripture, the desert often appears as a place of testing. Israel wandered there for 40 years. Jesus was led into the wilderness before the beginning of his ministry. These wilderness seasons were not comfortable. They stripped away certainty and familiarity. But it was in the desert that strength was forged, clarity was revealed, and character was deepened. Discomfort, in its strange and unwelcome way, becomes the furnace where transformation takes place. I remember a season in my own life when everything felt unsettled. Old patterns were falling away. New responsibilities pressed in, and I felt as though I was standing on shifting ground. My first response was resistance. I prayed for the discomfort to end, for the storm to pass, for the weight to be lifted, but it lingered. And slowly, I realized that the discomfort was not against me. It was working within me. It was shaping new resilience, teaching me surrender, inviting me into a deeper trust that I could not have learned in comfort. You may be in that season right now. You may feel stretched beyond what you think you can bear. The job is uncertain, the relationship fragile, the future unclear. Everything in you wants to run from the ache, to numb it or deny it. But hear this, the discomfort you feel is not meaningless. It is not wasted. It is often the very place where God is writing the next chapter of your becoming. Growth does not arrive in the comfort zone. The soil of comfort produces familiarity, but rarely transformation. It is when the ground shakes, when the old structures no longer hold. When we are pressed beyond our limits, that is when hidden capacities awaken. That is when we discover strength we did not know we had. That is when we learn that the spirit within us is stronger than the fear around us. A pearl is formed when an oyster is irritated by a grain of sand. The irritation, the discomfort, sets in motion the creation of something beautiful. Without that irritation, there is no pearl. In the same way, the discomfort you resist may be the very thing forming a beauty within you that cannot be formed any other way. If you can pause in your discomfort, instead of running, breathe into it. Ask gently, what is this moment teaching me? What part of me is being stretched, strengthened, reshaped? The answers may not come immediately, but the posture of openness will shift everything. Discomfort ceases to be your enemy and becomes your teacher. So, do not despise the wilderness. Do not curse the stretching. It is in these very moments that growth takes root. One day you will look back and see that what felt like breaking was, in truth, building. That what felt unbearable was actually ushering you into newness. You are not defined by your lowest moment. This is a truth many of us struggle to believe. When we fall, when we fail, when we stumble into choices we wish we could undo, shame becomes a heavy shadow that whispers, "This is who you are now." That mistake, that weakness, that broken season. And if we are not careful, we begin to wear our lowest moments like a name tag. But hear me, dear friend, your lowest moment is not your identity. It is part of your story, yes, but it is not the title of your story. Consider Peter, the disciple who swore he would never deny Jesus. And yet, in the hours of pressure, fear overtook him. Not once, not twice, but 3 times he denied, even knowing the one he loved most. That night, as the rooster crowed, shame must have drenched him like a cold rain. He must have wondered if he had ruined everything, if he was now nothing but a coward branded by failure. But that was not the end of Peter's story. Days later, he was restored, called not by his failure, but by his name. And the one who once denied became the one who preached with courage, the one through whom thousands found hope. Your lowest moment is not your identity. It is the soil in which mercy works its wonders. I think of my own missteps, the seasons when I fell short of the person I wanted to be, the nights when I replayed my failures on an endless loop, convincing myself I was disqualified from grace. But over time, I began to see the very places where I felt most unworthy became the places where I encountered the deepest compassion. What I thought would bury me became the ground where new beginnings quietly blossomed. Perhaps you know that feeling of being haunted by what you did or what was done to you, or the chapter of your life you wish you could erase. Perhaps you have carried labels that others gave you or that you gave yourself based on a single moment of weakness. But listen closely. You are not defined by the chapter you wish you could hide. You are defined by the author who is still writing your story. Scripture tells us that God's mercies are new every morning. Every morning. That means yesterday's failures do not have the power to dictate today's identity. That means there is always a fresh page, always a chance to rise again. Think of gold refined in fire. In the furnace, the impurities rise, the imperfections surface. But the fire does not destroy the gold. It reveals its purity. In the same way, your lowest moment may bring to the surface things you wish were not there. But it does not erase your worth. You are not the impurity, you are the gold. So, do not let shame name you. Do not let failure define you. Do not let the past chain you to a false identity. You are more than what went wrong. You are more than the night you regret. Are more than the season that broke you. And if you are still in that place, still walking through the aftermath of a fall, know this: the story is not over. Grace is patient. Redemption is relentless. And even in your lowest moment, a higher calling still rests upon you. One day, when you look back, you will see that your lowest moments were not wasted. They became the bridge to deeper compassion, to stronger faith, to a truer sense of who you are. And when you realize this, your heart will also begin to see the hidden beauty in endings, for every ending carries within it the possibility of a beginning. Every ending carries a hidden beginning. We often see endings as loss. The closing of a chapter, the goodbye we never wanted to say, the dream that slips through our fingers. These moments cut deep. They feel final, like doors slammed shut, leaving us standing in the hallway of life, unsure of where to go next. Endings can feel like betrayal. They can feel like abandonment. They can feel like failure. But what if endings are not the finish line we fear they are? What if, beneath their heavy silence, they are quietly making space for something new to emerge? Think of the seasons. Autumn strips the trees bare, painting the ground with leaves that once danced in the wind. It looks like death, like loss, like an ending. And yet, hidden within that bareness, life is preparing to bloom again. Winter holds its quiet, and spring is born. The tree has not died, it is preparing. What looked like an ending was only a hidden beginning. Scripture reminds us of this pattern of renewal. In Ecclesiastes, we read that to everything there is a season, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Life breathes in seasons, and no season is permanent. An ending in one season is simply the threshold to another. I remember a time in my own journey when a door I had leaned on for years suddenly closed. It was a role I cherished, a place of comfort and identity. When it ended, I felt stripped, uncertain, even angry. I could not imagine what could replace it. And yet, as the weeks unfolded, I began to notice something stirring within me. New opportunities, deeper insights, hidden strengths I would never have discovered had I clung to what was gone. What I thought was an ending was, in truth, an invitation. It was not rejection, it was redirection. Perhaps you are facing an ending now. Perhaps something you depended on has come to its close. Perhaps the chapter you loved has reached its final page, and you are staring at the blank paper of tomorrow, not knowing how to write the next sentence. It is natural to grieve. It is human to mourn. Allow yourself that tenderness, but also hold this: endings are rarely empty. They carry seeds of beginnings not yet visible. A caterpillar's world ends inside the cocoon. The old form dissolves, the familiar body breaks down. To the caterpillar, it must feel like destruction. And yet, hidden in that breaking is the mystery of wings. The ending of one life is the beginning of another, more radiant one. So too with us. The loss that feels unbearable, the chapter that feels stolen, the path that suddenly disappears. All of it may be the cocoon preparing us for flight. Endings strip us so that newness has room to arrive. This is why Jesus spoke of a grain of wheat falling into the ground and dying, only to bear much fruit. Death was not the final word. It was the doorway. In every true ending, there is the whisper of resurrection. Friend, if you are standing at the edge of an ending, do not despair. You are not standing at a grave. You are standing at a threshold. Something new, though unseen, is already taking shape. Trust that the story does not stop here. And when we learn to see endings in this way, we can even find courage in the wilderness. For the wilderness itself is not abandonment, but the sacred place where grace begins to transform us. My friends, as we have journeyed through these truths together, I hope you can see the thread that weaves them into one story, that your life, even in its broken places, is not without meaning. Pain is not punishment, but preparation. Faith is the anchor when change shakes everything around you. Growth begins when you stop running from discomfort. You are not defined by your lowest moment. Every ending carries the seed of a beginning. And even in the wilderness, grace is waiting. Do you see the pattern? At every point where life seems most fragile, most uncertain, most unbearable, there is always a hidden invitation, a hand extended, a whisper reminding you that you are not abandoned, not forgotten, not too far gone. The very things you thought would destroy you are often the soil where your resilience, your wisdom, your compassion are born. You may not understand the season you are in right now. You may not see how the pieces of your story would fit together. But I assure you, they will. The same hand that guided generations before us still guides you today. The same grace that met them in their valleys will meet you in yours. So, as you step forward from this moment, carry this with you: change is not your enemy. Growth is not beyond you. Hope is not lost. You are being shaped, strengthened, and prepared for more than you can see. Take courage then, and walk gently into the unknown. Trust the process, trust the timing, trust the one who is writing your story. And may you find, in every change, not just the achy of what has ended, but the quiet joy of what is beginning.